We'll begin with the invocation prayer of this Upanishad. You have the book, you open the first page. The Kaivalya Upanishad, the first page has this invocatory prayer. Om Bhadram Karne Vishruniyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshviryajatraha Sthirairangai Stushtuvastastanubihi Vishema Deva Hitam Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vriddhastravaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Stakshu Arishtanemihi Swastino Brihaspati Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Kaivalya Upanishad. It is part of the Atharva Veda. Quite a few Upanishads belongs to this category of Atharva Veda. The Mandukya Upanishad is also from the same Atharva Veda. Kaivalya Upanishad is also from the same Atharva Veda. A very small Upanishad having 25 mantras. Part 1 has 23 mantras. Part 2 has 2 mantras. Part 2 is more like the Guru's final advice. Not final advice. After the Upanishad is over, the student asks, give me some practical tips, and he gives some practical tips, which is the last two verses. And the Upanishad can be, this 25 verses is divided into the 5 topics. 5 mantras, 5 topics. Mantras 1 to 5, how to gain knowledge of reality. 6 to 11, Brahman, the manifest and the unmanifest. Third topic, realize that thou art. Fourth topic, he is realized, I am Brahman. Fifth topic, aids to realization, 22 to 25. This is the a general topic breakup. Though it is not part of the 10 principal Upanishads, this is also considered as one of the principal Upanishads. Though it is not part of the 10. When we say part of the 10 means commented by all the three acharyas have commented on the same 10 Upanishads, and this one is not commented upon. Though it is not commented upon, it is also considered as one of the important Upanishads. A very important Upanishad because Brahma Sutra follows the style of this Upanishad. Brahma Sutra starts with the exact style. When we go into the verse, we will see that in detail. Mantra. Upanishads, we don't say verse. Upanishad, we say mantra. Mantra 1 of this Upanishad starts with saying Atha Ashvalayana. Atha means then. Atha means then. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Brahma Sutras starts with the word Atha, then. The very word then is taken into an elaborate explanation. what is the word then means. You don't start a book with then. So what is this atha means? What does this then means? In that word then, the entire preparatory portion of the Veda Purva Bhaga, the Karma Marga, the Bhakti Upasana, all that this person has done and come to that height. In that one word, atha, the student's entire thing is done. Yeah. What is the point? Yeah. Atha Ashvalayana. Then Ashvalayana approaches. Then implies exactly the same thing. Brahma Sutra, Atato Brahma Jignasa, it starts. Atato Brahma Jignasa, it starts. Atha means then. When I go there, we will discuss that in detail. I'm not taking that mantra now. We are not discussing that mantra. But what is important is the very Upanishad. Number two, it is also of the greatest because the subject matter they straight away come into the subject matter directly. 25 verses on only Brahman realization, that's all. Brahman realization, that's all. They don't talk about, he doesn't talk about anything. He doesn't talk about anything else. Beauty enna appadina, we will not have any doubts in this. We will not have any doubts. We will not have any clarifications. Confusion la varave varadilla. Because he's talking about it, so he's going to talk about it in a straightforward, so simple, so beautiful. After fully preparing himself, Ashvalayana, the student, comes and asks the Guru, what is Brahman? What is Brahma Vidya? How to gain this knowledge of Brahman? That is the question. It means he has done the preparation, he has done all the preparatory work that is needed. What is the preparatory work that is needed? The preparatory work that is needed is pursuing dharma, artha, kama, sadhana chatushtaya sampat, sadhana chatushtayam, shat sampat, karma marga, upasana, all that is covered in that word atha, then. All that is covered in that word then. So what is so having done all this, he comes. So the preparation is not directly said. The preparation to Upanishad is implied here by the word then. One of when they write the commentaries to the Brahma Sutra Bhashyas, the word atha is taken and elaborate, detailed commentaries, because people don't know what is that atha then means, no? Since people don't know what is that atha means, elaborate introduction goes into the word atha. Now let us discuss about Brahman. That's how Brahma Sutra starts. Same thing here. So since Kaivalya Upanishad precedes Brahma Sutra, we say Brahma Sutra follows the style of Kaivalya. That's all. That is the connection. Also, in the Mandukya Karika, Gaudapada, when he writes the Karikas to Mandukya Upanishad, he refers to Kaivalya Upanishad quite a few times. So you find this Kaivalya Upanishad being quoted as a reference to some important Upanishads. So from all this, we understand that this is a very important Upanishad, and we study this Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad. The word Kaivalya means solitary. The word Kaivalya, Kevala. Kevalana, Tamilla Kevalandra Madri Kadede. Tamilla Kevalamna Matam useless and not in that sense. Kaivalya comes from the root Kevala, means solitary, single, alone. From this solitary means solitary, single, alone. Means what? The spiritual path is a singular, a individual singular pursuit. It is not a social activity. Religion, spiritual pursuit is not a social activity. It is an individual pursuit. Also Kaivalya in the sense it talks about the Kevala Vastu. The Kevala Vastu means the only real entity. And it talks about the only real entity. Since it talks about the only real entity, it is also called Kaivalya Upanishad. And this word Kaivalya, you find this word Kaivalya is used in many literature. But the word Kaivalya means alone, single, solitary, talking about that only singular thing. That is Kaivalya. Talking about that only one singular thing is Kaivalya. Since it is talking about that only singular thing, he doesn't waste time talking about the preparatory stages. Why he doesn't waste time talking about the preparatory stages? Because the student has crossed all that and has come. Since the student has crossed all that and has come, no point in talking to. What is the point in talking to that person about that? So when we go into the verse, little bit we will study about the Atha. We will study little bit about the preparatory practices and all we will discuss when we enter into the mantra. So a few words we will talk on what is that word Atha then means, and then we go into the mantras. This is the brief thing about the Kaivalya Upanishad. Generally, Upanishad itself is a book, a conversation where statements are made. Upanishads is a conversation. Bhagavad Gita is also a conversation. Bhagavad Gita is also a conversation. Atmabodha Bhajagovindam is not a conversation. Vedanta treatise is not a conversation. It is a book. It is a book written. So first you need to notice this difference. Now, the difference between the Upanishadic conversation and rest of the conversations is, in the Upanishadic conversation, you will not find any logic, reason, analysis, nothing. It makes extraordinary statements. Number two, it has its own logic, it has its own reasoning, which is difficult to decipher. That is why to decipher the meaning of these Vedantic words in an elaborate system of Mimamsa, Tarka, Nyaya, Vyakarana, all that sciences is evolved, developed so that the meaning of these words are rightly understood. Why such a system of science is developed? Because the author is not available to tell you the exact meaning, what he meant. The author is not available. Since the author is not available, one possibility is you can give your own meaning. You can interpret it in the way that you want. So what they did? No. The Upanishadic statements should not be interpreted in the way that you want. It has to be understood in the way that it is meant to be. Therefore, what happens? The study of the Upanishad always require a grounding in Tarka, Mimamsa, Nyaya, Vyakarna, some grounding in that is required to study it. That is why we don't take up these Upanishadic discussions at all, because most are not exposed to that. Neither can we water down the Upanishadic content and talk about something which is not in the textbook also. Neither we can do that also. So what I will be doing in these sessions is, as and when the relevant portion of analysis and all that comes, I will tell you this is how it is derived. This is how the meanings are derived. I will try and I'll try and say as much as I can. We will discuss that also. This difficulty we don't have in Bhagavad Gita, because he himself says tasmat, tasmat, tasmat. He himself keeps saying it. Also, he doesn't switch over ideas. He took karma marga. He went into karma marga 3 to 6. He just went into that in full detail. He never deviated. So, and also when he's talking about karma marga, he spoke about it so completely that everything is in your hands. You are the architect. So from chapter 3 to chapter 6, he spoke about that so completely. From chapter 7 to chapter 12, he shifted the gears, and then he says, no, don't think as though you are. Don't think everything is like that in you. In relation to your thoughts and actions, you are the architect. In relation to the result and all that, you are not the. You have control. You are the architect in relation to your thoughts and actions, but not in relation to the result. So that is the Ishvara, the God. And then from chapter 7, he talks about he talks about the concept of God as in a dualistic philosophy. Talking about 10th chapter Vibhuti Yoga, 11th chapter Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, and chapter 12 Bhakti Yoga, culminating in almost like saying almost exactly the opposite of chapter 3 to chapter 6. Since we don't study it so sequentially, since we don't study it so seriously, we don't even notice all this. Yeah, we don't even notice this. And then what he does now in talking about this karma and bhakti, what happens is the two is being established more and more. The two means the subject and the object, you and the God, the separation between you and God. So what he does from chapter 13, Kshetrajnam Chabimam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata and all that he starts, and then in the 15th chapter he culminates it by saying Uttama Purushas Anyaha Kshara Akshara Uttama Purusha. So there in Bhagavad Gita you will never have this difficulty, because the thought flow is very systematic there. Even when he is even within the thought flow, every few verses he concludes. So it is easy to follow Bhagavad Gita. When it comes to Upanishads, we'll be studying that now. You can a sample. We'll be studying it. No, he doesn't take any effort to reason it out. And the very fact that he doesn't take any effort to reason it out is what is the very effort that he doesn't take to reason it out is the very beauty of the Upanishad. Yeah, just to so much about Brahman they will be talking. In the Bhagavad Gita, he will be talking about Brahman in references only. He will not talk about it directly. Here he will talk about Brahman only. So sometimes when it doesn't fit into the logic or reason, we have to stretch our logic to his logic. Yeah, these are all the brief preparation order. We have to get into the with this preparation, we have to get into the study of the Upanishads. The word Upanishad, as we have seen any number of times, Upa means near. All the sadhanas have the word Upa. Upavasa, we say no. Upavasa. Yeah. Upavasam, like when the fasting, people have taken it. Yeah. Upavasati. Living near. Upavasa means living near. Instead of living in the kitchen, instead of living for the stomach, you keep it aside for a while and live with God. Upavasa. Upa means near. Why I am using that is Upa means near. Vivekananda translated it as near, sit below literature, he said. Literal meaning, near, sit below literature. Upanishad is what? Near, sit below. So first is near. Second is sitting. Third is below. Kilo karno. Yeah. Near, sit below. Nearness. Near means the same vision. What the teacher wants to teach is what you are interested in. That's what Upa means. Upa means what the teacher wants to teach, you are interested in. What does the teacher wants to teach? About Brahman only. Like I have given this example any number of times, no? Ramana Maharshi's quote. Ramana Maharshi said it so beautifully. People will come to a wise man and they will not know what to ask. They will come to a wise man and they will not know what to ask. Upanishadic fellow knows what to ask. So that is Upa, means nearness. Nearness in terms of not physically, nearness in terms of the connect. Nowadays we call it as connect, no? There has to be a connect. What is that connect? The student also wants the same thing. The teacher also is wanting to teach that thing. So there is a connect between the two. Now, the teacher wants to teach Brahman and we want to know how to handle the wife. The teacher wants to teach about Brahman. We want to know laws vanda how to handle. There is no Upa at all. Are you able to follow? Upa means this. There is, both of them are interested in the same subject matter. What the guru is interested, the Shishya is also interested. Yeah. Very, very important is to have this connect. That's Upa. Abdinradhile in the meaning word. Sit. Sit means not moving into other thoughts, not moving into other activities. Sitting means not moving into other activities. Not moving into other activities means he has understood the futility of all those activities and he has left all that and come. That is what sit means. Upa means this. Sitting means what? In the same place. Sitting means you are in a place. In a place means what? You don't have any other activity other than Brahma Vidya. If at all there is any activity other than Brahma Vidya, it is Guru Seva. That's all. If at all there is any other activity other than Brahma Vidya, it is Guru Seva. So first is Upa. Upa plus Ni plus Shat. So sitting implies the student telling the Guru that I am done with everything else. Now that I am done with everything else, this is the only pursuit. I have come to this. The third is below. The third is below. Below indicates a reverence, bhakti. Below indicates that reverence. Like I'm just recollecting the stories I have said in different context. Like Ashtavakra told Janaka, no, I sit above, you sit below. Janaka said, please teach me. Ashtavakra said, Upanishad or condition fulfill aliye, he said. What is the condition? Sit. Yeah, your nearness is there. Yeah, you are willing to sit also. Hana, you are sitting on the throne. I have to sit below. It doesn't work that way. So what? I sit above, you sit below. Below indicates a devotion. It's a devotion. And the devotion is what the Gita, he says as Pranipatena Sevaya. That is the devotion. Pranipatena Sevaya. The Mundakopanishad says Samitpani, carrying the faggot sticks. Now carrying the samit means it is symbolic of anticipating the need of the Guru, and as he is in search of the Guru, other devotion. He is not even found to the Guru. As he is searching for the Guru, he has anticipated the need and he is ready. That's a different species altogether, maybe. Yeah, that Upanishadic student species themselves are a different category. So they have anticipated the need and now Samit literally means the faggot sticks. Okay. Now supposing if you have a guru like Gaudapada, what can you carry? Because he has no use for the Samit, no. See, supposing if he is Grihastha Ashrama Guru, like a Vasishtha, he has a use for the faggot sticks. Supposing if he is a Guru like a Gaudapada, what do you do? Where there is no, then what is the Samit means? Samit is not the literal meaning of the word Samit. It is the anticipation. Are you able to follow? It is not the literal meaning. It is the anticipation. Anticipation about whom? The student is so convinced that he is going to get the Guru. He is so convinced that he is going to get the Guru, and he is so convinced that the Guru needs a service, and he is already, he is ready. So when he is going to study only, he is anticipating that. Abdinna, it's a wonderful blend. So the Upanishadic Upanishadic student. This is the meaning of the word Upa, Ni, Shat. Upa plus Ni plus Shat. Near, sit, below. Below indicates your readiness to serve, and readiness to serve in anticipating it. That is the wonderful thing. Sitting implies you have no other, you don't have vasanas, you don't have desires for any other activities. It means that. Sit means that. It is not that you are sitting temporarily. Now, here we are all sitting temporarily for an hour. For we have other vasanas to attend to also. In his case, sitting means just sitting. Why? Because there is no vasanas for any other, no vasanas, no desires, no other activities. No other activities he has. Since he has no other activities, he can sit. And when he's sitting there, upa, meaning both of them are sharing the same vision. The same vision means what the guru wants to teach is what the student wants to know. The student is thirsty for it. The student is thirsty for it. The guru is also thirsty to give it. Rarely they two meet. Because most of the time you find the guru have a thirst. Like he says, no, 65 years I am talking. What is that? 60 years I am talking. 65 years non-stop. I am talking, he says. What is that? The thirst to help, the thirst to give. The student also carries something similar. When they both meet, there is a conversation between the two. When they both meet, there is a conversation, and that conversation is called Upanishad. Seriya? This is the meaning of the word Upanishad. So there is no guru. So the very preparation, the very word Upanishad itself talks about the preparation. The questions they ask also implies their preparation. The text also starts with that preparation. The text also starts. Like Mundaka. What is that knowing? That one thing. I know everything. Paravidya, and he doesn't say Paravidya and Aparavidya. The question that he asks is, what is that one thing? That if I know everything. First of all, how is it possible? How is it possible that you know one thing and you can know everything? It is possible if that one thing is what is there everywhere. It is possible if you understand that one thing, which is what that is everywhere. He gives the answer. You're able to follow. It's the question is beautiful and the answer is also beautiful. So the question that he asks is, what is that knowing? Jnatam bhavati iti. What is that knowing? One thing, if I know everything. If you have understood, it is that one thing that is everywhere. By knowing that one thing, you know everything. By knowing that it is all the pots of various shapes and sizes is nothing but clay, the knowledge of the clay makes you to understand everything about. So you know everything about the pots. So in that sense, knowing that you know everything, he gives that answer. Similarly, here also a question is asked. Everywhere you find the question. Keneshitam patati preshitam manah kena prana pratama praiti yukta. Kenopanishad asks this question. Isavasya Upanishad, the student is so evolved that he doesn't even ask a question, the guru starts. In Isavasya Upanishad, there is no question that is asked. At least in most of the Upanishads, you find question and answer. You find the question and an answer. Katho Upanishadnale conversation nepper. Yeah. Katho na story nanchinar. Yeah. Katho means conversation. It's a conversation. Nachiketas asked question. Isavasya Upanishad, there is no question, because the student is so short of words to even ask that question. He just goes to the guru and just dramatizing it. Abdilan try pannadingo. Yeah, don't try all that. Even if you try, it will not work out. It will not work out. So the student is prepared so much that you would have just prostrated to the guru and you would have looked at the guru, and the guru knew exactly what he is asking. Straight away he started. Isavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. There you have to provide the question and then give the answer. But sir, where is the question? The guru says, the student, just by in prostration itself, the question has, in prostration layer, the question is implied there. Yeah, implied anger. In the other Upanishads, question is asked. So here also Ashvalayana asks a question, and all their questions would be related only to Paravidya, Brahma Vidya. They will not ask any question other than Brahma Vidya. In the other Upanishad, they went and asked the guru, Devas went and asked the same question. Human beings went and asked the same question. Asuras went and asked the same question. The answer is the same for everybody. Everybody went back assuming their own. Devas thought Brahman is saying self-control, because Devas means intelligent people. No. The human beings thought something else. Asuras thought daya, compassion, because Asuras means those who are constantly, and all three of them didn't understand it, and they have to come back to understand it rightly. So everywhere you find a question and an answer. Why I am saying all this is because in that question you will find, tell me clearly what I should do, Krishna, that it will give me Shreyas, that it will benefit me. That is Arjuna's question. Sishyasteham shadimam dvam prapannam. Tell me what I should do. I have surrendered to you. Tell me what I should do. Inga vandu what I should doன்றதே வராது. Why? Because they have done everything and they have come here. So what I should do will never come here. If at all they ask what I should do, it will be in relation to Brahma Vidya only. Some background I thought I will give so that we understand the level of discussion here. So what they did in the later period, lot of Prakarana Granthas was written. Lot of introductory textbooks are written. See, when we say introductory textbook, you must understand, introductory textbook doesn't mean introducing it. Introductory textbook means the concepts are sequentially explained. When the concepts are sequentially explained, it is called it is called introductory textbook. Introductory textbook doesn't mean the subject matter is different, nor are they watering it down and saying something different. The difference between the Upanishad and the other granthas and the other scriptures is this. I'm just repeating again. In all other textbooks, the thought flow is systematically developed, and then Brahman would come right at the end. Brahman will come right at the end. Because the vast majority has not yet developed that longing for Brahman. Yeah. Even here, people say, I want moksha, sir. You can't say, I want moksha, and then 10 minutes later ask, how do I handle my irritating neighbor? It means you asking for moksha has no meaning. We're not saying it is wrong. It means we need to do a lot of preparation and come. Upanishads talk to the student who has already done that preparatory work. They have already done that preparatory work. What is that preparatory work? The preparatory work, he spends a lot of time in Atma Bodha. The very first verse, Adhikaritvam, he explains it. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampat. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampat, Mumukshatvam. These are all the things. Now, Viveka, Vairagya, Varnuna, you have to do lot of Shravana, Karma Yoga. Lot of Shravana, Karma Yoga. If you do that, you will get this. You will get this Vairagya, Mumukshatvam, and all that. So where does it start? It starts with Shravana, Karma Yoga. In Karma Yoga, Bhakti is integrated with it. Integrating Karma and Bhakti and Shravana is what we call as Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Integrating all these three, you develop a certain level of Vairagya, Sadhana, this Shat Sampat, and then having developed all this, you will come and ask the very same question. You will come and ask this question: what? How to gain? What is this Brahman? But Shravanaliya you have heard so much, no? In Shravana itself you have heard all this so much. What is the difference there? In Shravana, when it is heard, it was just there was no interest in that. Nor is the person ready to pay the price to get there. In Shravana portion, when it comes and asks on the Upanishadic level, what it means is he has developed the mumukshatva also. Having developed the mumukshatva, he asks. So, in the Prakarana Grantha also you will find the same question. In the Upanishad also you will find the same question. The only difference there is here he is trying to pose the question for you and then answer it. In the Upanishad, the question comes from his own development, his own evolution. That is the difference. Otherwise, subject matter is one and the same. Are you able to follow? That is why whenever we talk about introductory textbook, people think it is an inferior textbook. It's a lower grade textbook. It's not a lower grade textbook. It is a book that contains the logic and reason. Not only logic and reason, it also says where logic should stop also. You need to use logic and reason, and you have to use the same logic and reason not to reason also, no. You have to use logic and reason to understand, and you have to use logic and reason sometimes not to reason. Adum purinu. You need to know when to use it, and also you should know when not to. So when not to use it is the Shraddha Bhakti they bring in. they will bring in the Shraddha and Bhakti, and even when they bring in Shraddha and Bhakti, so much of analysis would be done to explain the Shraddha and Bhakti and all that, and then the person is, and then the student is evolved to the Upanishadic grade, where the person says, I am not interested in anything other than Brahma Vidya. This is the conversation. I said Upanishad is a conversation. No, this is the conversation between two such extraordinary people. All Upanishads, all scriptures starts with a Namaskara Shloka. That is what invocatory prayer is all about. Shanti Mantra. We can call it a Shanti Mantra. We can call it an invocatory prayer. We can call it as Namaskara Mantra. All means the same. Why? Because you need to have lot of Shraddha. You need to have a lot of Shraddha to follow this. So in the invocatory prayer itself, it is included. Shraddha means what the Guru is saying is correct. I am not able to understand is Shraddha. Shraddha means what the Guru is saying is correct. What Vedanta is saying is correct. I am not able to understand is Shraddha. Avladha. Lack of Shraddha means prove it. Explain it. Yeah, today is the day. Today is the time of explanation. No, you have to explain. No, explain it. Explain it. Explain it. Convince me. Upanishad, the Guru will say, go get a few more knocks and shocks, and then you will come back with a different attitude. Then you will come back with a different attitude. So the invocatory prayer brings in the right environment. Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu is an invocatory prayer. What is the, now I am from the meaning of the word Kaivalya and the meaning of the word Upanishad, I have moved on to discussing the invocatory prayer. Now I am generally talking about invocatory prayer, and then we will go to the specific invocatory prayer of this Upanishad. Generally, what is that invocatory prayer? It's a Namaskara Shloka. The Guru and Sishya both prostrate. Both prostrate. It's not only the Sishya that is prostrating. The Guru also prostrates. Yeah. The Sishya prostrating to the Guru, to whom the Guru is prostrating? Guru is prostrating to God, Ishvara. Guru is prostrating to God, Ishvara. He prostrates. So there is that wonderful backdrop of devotion in that. There is a wonderful backdrop of devotion. Emotion has set in. Are you able to follow? It implies Shraddha. To put it very simply, what is Shraddha means? What is said in Vedanta is correct. What is said by the Guru is correct. I don't understand. I don't understand. When I don't understand, what I will do? I will serve, qualify myself to make myself understand. That's where the Guru, that's where the Shishya starts serving. Since I don't understand, explain to me, he will not ask. Yeah, because how much ever he explains, he can't understand. No. Therefore, what he will do, he will go and serve and mature himself and comes back and asks the same question. That is what very beautifully in the this is what is very beautifully discussed in one of the Upanishads as an elaborate story in the introduction itself, where the boy goes and asks the Guru, teach me Brahma Vidya. The Guru says, Guru Jodi Madu he gives. Yeah. Male and female. Female is cow, male is, what is the male version of it? I don't know. Whatever the male is. So he gives both and says, come back after they have become 1,000. Come back after they have become 1,000. இந்த ரெண்டு எண்ணிக்கை, this two, when it will become 1,000, indicating that it can go over a few janmas also. It means that it can go over a few janmas also. No point in hurrying, no point in getting result oriented, no point in asking for instant quick fix methods. For Brahma Vidya, it doesn't work that way. So what the Guru does, make it into 1,000. So I come to study Brahma Vidya not to increase your wealth. Cows are the wealth, no. I have come here to study Brahma Vidya not to increase your wealth. You take care of your cows and things. You teach me Brahma. Today we will talk that language, no. நான் எது வந்தோமோ அது மட்டும் சொல்லுங்க சார், அதெல்லாம் நீங்க பாத்துக்கோங்க, அதெல்லாம் that is your things and all is not my problem. The Shishya quietly takes it. The Shishya quietly drives them back. The Upanishad says, for the first few weeks, for the first few months, he is very agitated, he is very disturbed attending to this. Why? Because what he wanted and what the Guru had asked to do, he is very disturbed, he is very agitated. 99% of the students will give up here. 99% of the students would give up. They say, no, வேற யாராவது நல்ல குருவா பார்க்கணும், இவருக்கு தெரியல. We have to find somebody, we have to find another proper guru. No, they will lose it. That boy didn't lose it. So by and by what happened? The Shraddha. இதுதான் Shraddhaன்றதுக்கு இவ்வளவு story. Shraddha. So by and by what happened? He was with them and attending to them and all that. He was keeping count also. He was very agitated, he was very disturbed, and he was keeping count also. After a while, maybe 350, 400, he stopped counting them also. They crossed 1,000 and still he didn't go back. So the cows felt pity. The cows said, we have become 1,000. Now take us back. Now take us back. Oh, 1000 தாண்டி போயிடுச்சு நம்பர் எங்கேயோ. Now take us back. For your question has to be answered. And we also want to hear what the Guru is going to tell you. So then the disciple says, yeah, let's go. As they are walking back to the Gurukula, the cows felt so happy and grateful about this boy, because the way he was attending to them, adhan Karma Yoga. This is what symbolic of Karma Yoga is. The way in which he was attending to them, so dedicated, blah, 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 whatever, all that is. We're not going into that discussion now. The very karma, which is the cow, which is the pala, they started teaching. They said, we will teach you. But don't worry, last portion we will not teach you. For that last portion we have to hear from the Guru only. So the cow started teaching on the way back. So as soon as he entered the ashrama, the Guru looks at the disciple and he says, who taught you? First question the Guru asked is, he didn't count the cows along. He didn't ask what was the question. He asked, who taught you? He said, the cows taught you. Now that you have learnt from the cows, you are ready to listen to this answer of mine. And he starts teaching the Upanishad. It means what? The preparation. You follow? Now, he was able to go through that preparation because he had the Shraddha. He had that Shraddha. So invocatory mantras, invocatory prayer is a reference to I approach the study with Shraddha. Shraddha Bhakti in Solavanda. Shraddha nale Bhakti is included because in Upanishads pesumbodu minimum words use pannom. In that word, everything has to be implied in that word. So Shraddha nale, that's why in English word faith, Bhakti, the aspect of Bhakti never gets implied in that English word faith. In Sanskrit, it is faith and Bhakti. What is the Bhakti? Bhakti is the limitation, recognizing the limitation. Number 2, having recognized the limitation, the Shishya says, I will follow your command. Arjuna asking for explanation for the command. In verse number 2 and 3 of the Upanishad student number student. If you see verses 2 and 3 in Bhagavad Gita, Klaibyam Masmagama Parthanlam Solitu, straight away there in verse number 3 himself, he says, get up and fight. Get up and fight. Straight away the answer is given. He didn't even want to, but then Arjuna is not yet ready for that. So he has to waste his breath for 650 verses he has to speak. Why? Because he's asking for an explanation to the command. Upanishadic student says, just command. That's it. The command is enough. Shraddha, he will do everything. Pannanum sollal, eppadi pannunlam solli kodukama pannana, how will I do? Clear? In the Upanishad, the boy didn't ask how to attend to the Kausalam. That is his problem now. He has to make it to 1,000. Avladhan the command is. Make it to 1,000 and come. That's all the command is. Now it is the Shishya's problem. How to make it to 1,000? In case immediately halfway through, if one dies, what will happen? Adalla your problem. You need to attend to. You have to attend to all that. Don't come and you don't go and ask. Yeah, it's a totally different style altogether. Why I am discussing all this is to get a feel of that. Yeah, at least we can feel it temporarily. How nice it would be to be, how wonderful it is to be in that stage. Yeah, Shraddha. Invocatory prayer is a reference to Shraddha. Shraddha means what? Shraddha in the elsewhere in the Bhashyas, Shankaracharya comments it like this. Shraddha means trust in the Guru Vakya and the Shastra Vakya. இதெல்லாம் ஏதோ நானே ஒரிஜினலா சொல்றேன்னு நினைச்சுக்காதீங்க. நானும் சும்மா 4 புக்ல இருந்து படிச்சுட்டு வந்து தான் டைம் பாஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன் இங்க. I'm not saying anything. He says it so beautifully. சொல்றத பார்த்தா ஏதோ நீங்களே ஒரிஜினலா கண்டுபிடிச்ச மாதிரி இருக்குதுன்னு அதெல்லாம் ஒண்ணும் கிடையாது. எல்லாம் there is no need to find out anything original. It has been explained so well explained in the language sequence connect பண்ணி சொல்ல வேண்டியிருக்கு அவ்வளவுதான். Other than that nothing has to be. So beautifully he says, what is Shraddha? Shraddha in the Shastra Vakya and the Guru Vakya. For Shastra Vakya and Guru Vakya are one and the same. For Shastra is nothing but the Guru Vakya. Therefore, for all practical purposes, the Upanishadic student says Shraddha means Shraddha in the Guru Vakya. For there is no Shastram Vakyam and Guru Vakyam. There are no two things. For Upanishadic student, there are no two things. There is only one. And what is that one? The Guru Vakya, the command. And Guru gives command. Guru na, he has to command. Adam Guru. Yeah, Guru should not be, please listen to me, this logic and reason அப்படியே வீக்கா உட்காந்து அப்படி எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணினே இருக்கிறது வந்து இங்க SRL சங்கர் இருக்கிறாரு இன்னைக்கு. இருக்கிறாரு, SRL சங்கர் இருக்கிறாரு. இதெல்லாம் கோனார் நோட்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் இல்லையா, சும்மா எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணினே அப்படி பண்ணினே இருக்கிறதெல்லாம். Command. A command is given and the student obeys. Now, invocatory prayer is to help us to come into that frequency. This is the prayer from the standpoint of the Shishya. Now, what is the Guru praying? Guru is praying to his Guru. Guru is praying to his Guru. Now, to his Guru, backwards la poine irundamna, first Guru yarta vandu nikkum? God nu vandu nikkum. First Guru will become God. Therefore, what the Guru says, the Guru prays to God, the Shishya prays to God. Who is the God for Shishya? The Guru. Now, who is Guru praying to? His Guru. Therefore, invocatory prayer is towards God. Clear that? So the invocatory prayer is dedicated to the God, because the subject matter is God. No, subject matter God arndaka avarta dana kumbudnu. Subject matter illaya, subject matter God என்றதுனால அவர் தான் கும்பிட்டாவணும், வேற யாரு? Who else we can go to? So both worship God. This is the meaning of all invocatory prayers. This is the meaning of all invocatory prayers. Having given the meaning of all invocatory prayers, we will go into the specific invocatory prayer of this Upanishad. So, invocatory prayer. Om. Always it starts with Om. Why they always starts with Om abdinna? And the Om abdinrade is enough for the very highly developed student. And the Om abdin Guru sonnavane, he says thank you, does namaskara, and he walks out, because he has gotten it. Yeah, the Om radle he has gotten it. Okay, aduvum illaya. Appramo there are a few more students lingering. To them it starts Bhadram karne vishruniyama devaha Bhadram pashyema akshabhir yajatraha Sthirairangai stushtuvansastanubihi Vyashema devahitam yadhayuhu Swastina indro vruddhashravaha Swastinah pusha vishvavedaha Swastinastarkshyo arishtanemihi Swastino brihaspadir dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May we hear the auspicious with our ears, O gods. O Devaha, may we hear the auspicious with our ears. May we behold the auspicious with our eyes, O worshipful ones. May we live God-given span of life with firm limbs and bodies. Firm limbs and bodies, ennathukku? Singing your praises. Singing your praises. May the traditionally glorified Indra bless us. May the all-knowing Sun blesses. May Vayu, protector from harm, blesses. May Brihaspati, blesses. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Now, Badram Karnebihi Shrunayama Devaha. Badram Pashyema Akshabihi Yajatraha. Akshabihi means eyes. Karnebihi means ears. So, what we hear the auspicious with our ears. May we behold the auspicious with our eyes. Auspicious for the ears to hear and the eyes to see indicates that the concept of satsang, indicator of satsang. The stimuli that enters you should not stimulate anything else, should not make you to remember anything else. All that enters you must trigger, stimulate the divine. That's what he means by saying, let us see the auspicious, let us hear the auspicious. May we live God-given span of life. God-given span of life. What is God-given span of life? Shatasam Shamaha. According to the Vedas, God-given span of life is 100 years. You should live a 100 years. Shatamanam bhavati sadayuh purusha, they bless. Because may you live the 100 years. Living 100 years for what? Living 100 years means he doesn't want you to do any guesswork here. He says it very clearly. Praising, singing your praises. Singing your praises means what? Talking about you. Singing your praises means talking about you. I want to live for 100 years. Why do I want to live for 100 years? So that I can talk about Brahman. So that I can talk about the reality. I can talk about the truths of life I can live. That is what is meant by singing the praises. Singing the praise na paat eldi paadradilla. It means that also. It's not that you write you compose a song and you start singing. It doesn't. It means that also. But through the song, what are you doing? Even when you do that, what are you doing? Communicating. So, communicating is what comes out of you. Ears and eyes is what goes into you. Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas is covered. Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas is covered. Badram karne vishnuyama devaha, badram pashyema akshabirya jatraha, sirairange sushtumasas tanubihi. Why it is called God-given? It is God-given because it is said in the Vedas. It is God-given because it is said in the Vedas. Number 2, also God-given because the matter is enlivened by the spirit, and that spirit is God. Without the enlivening factor, none of this can function. Since all these are functioning effectively is because of the Brahman that is enlivening all this. Therefore, it is given by God. In that way also. Are you able to follow? In that way also, it is God given. Number 3, given means gratitude. You are blessed. You are blessed with these faculties. God given means, from another angle, another way of looking at it is, God given means prasad. God given, and you should not misuse it. When it is given by the divine, you should know how to make. You should know how to make proper use of it. So all this is what is meant by God given. And what is making proper use of it means? Proper use of it means not getting involved in the world, not getting involved in samsara, not creating punarjanma and all that, and working in the path of evolution, self-realization, God realization, moksha is God given. Singing your praises is the right way of using it. Then he says, Vayu. May Vayu, protector from harm, bless us. Vayu refers to the pranas. The wind god refers to the pranas. Prana is the vital air. You can equate it to Pranamaya Kosha also. You can equate it to Pranamaya Kosha, because even in the 12 yajnas, we have seen how it is a prana that gives vitality. How prana gives vitality. Vitality means when your breathing is trained and kept properly and all that, there is an inner strength, which we have seen in the 12 yajnas. Inner strength is developed. When you are breathing in and breathing out, what happens? Your vitality increases. Now, Vayu represents that. Vayu means air. Vayu means wind god, air. Wind god, air means a subtle reference to pranas. Because what is the role of air in the human being's life? Not for cool breeze, not for cool breeze, not for air condition. It is pranas. So Vayu refers to pranas. So ears and eyes refers to the sense organs, the stimuli. Singing the praises refers to karmendriyas. Vayu is reference to pranamaya kosha, pranas. Then comes the mind, Indra. See, these are all traditional words. See, whenever they say Vayuna, we know it is prana. Why? Because prana is the god. Vayu is the symbolic god for prana. So whenever they talk about Indra in Vedas, we know Indra means mind. Indriyanam hi rajaha Indriya. Indra, the king of the senses. The king of the senses, now where all the senses go and report to, is the Indra. So Indra refers to the mind. Are you able to follow? Indra refers to the mind. A calm mind is required. You need to keep the mind calm. Therefore, he says, may the traditionally glorified Indra bless us. Blessing, it's not that he is asking for all the instruments to cooperate. He's saying, all of you, disturb pannadingo. Don't disturb, cooperate. This is what is meant by bless us. English word blessing will give you an implication that somebody is blessing you. No, not in that sense. He's asking for the cooperation. Then comes sun god, Pushan. Sun god refers to the intellect. Sun god refers to the intellect. In some context, sun god will refer to gross intellect as well as the subtle intellect. In this context, since he is bringing in Brihaspati separately, he says sun god refers to gross intellect, Brihaspati refers to subtle intellect. Why Brihaspati refers to subtle intellect? Because Brihaspati is the guru of the gods. Brihaspati is the Deva Guru. Brihaspati is the guru of the gods. Yeah. Asura Guru yaru? Shukracharya is Asura Guru. Yeah. Avangalukku kuda oru guru. And Asuras are also very disciplined and obedient to their guru. Yeah. நம்ம அசுராஸ் கூட ஒரு லோவர் கேட்டகரியில இருக்கும் போல் இருக்கு இப்ப இருக்கிற ஸ்பீஷிஸ். அப்பதான் அசுர குரு, even the asuras have a lot of thing to the guru. Now all these indicates what? The respective gods. The respective gods. What is the respective gods? Instead of saying this is the classic Upanishadic style, they will not talk about the instruments. They will refer to the gods that is symbolic of the instrument. So whenever they talk about the god, you have to understand it as a instrument. In the Prakarana Granthas, they will talk about the instrument, they will not talk about the god. Adanal it becomes easy. Are you able to follow the difference? In the books, in the Gita, in the Vedanta treatise, in Viveka Chudamani, Atmabodha, in the Mari books, the gods will not be mentioned, the instruments will be directly mentioned and they will talk. In the Upanishadic style, what they do, they will not mention the name of the instrument, they refer to the god who is symbolic of that instrument. So, what is this? May we hear the auspicious with our ears. Again, in the next session, I will take up this invocatory prayer again. There is a few more, there is something more also I want to discuss on this. For today, I just gave the stage number, level number 1. May we hear the auspicious with our ears, O gods. Bhadram karnebi shruniyama devaha. May we behold the auspicious with our eyes. See, எப்போதுமே eyes தான் first வரும், ears second வரும். Upanishadic traditionல ears தான் first வரும். Upanishadic ears, ஏன்னா it is a shruti, no? It is a shruti. அதனால கேனேஷிதம் பததி எல்லாத்துலயுமே அந்த hearing தான் ஸ்ரோத்ரஸ்ய ஸ்ரோத்ரம் தான் he gives the answer. சக்ஷுஷஸ் சக்ஷு அதிமுச்ச தீரஹாலாம் பின்னாடி தான் வரும். இதெல்லாம் ஒரு பியூட்டி ஆஃப் தி உபனிஷத் இதெல்லாம். Why? Because ears, இல்லையா, காது தான் முக்கியம், அங்க கண்ணு முக்கியம் இல்ல, இல்லையா? இப்பதான் கண்ணு ரொம்ப முக்கியம். உபனிஷத்தை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் காது முக்கியம். That is why the first is may we hear the auspicious, because Shruti, it is Shruti. And then may we behold the auspicious. O worshipful ones, may we live God-given span of life with firm limbs and bodies, singing your praises. May the traditionally glorified Indra bless us. May the all-knowing sun bless us. May Vayu, protector from harm, bless us. May Brihaspati bless us. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. With this, we conclude for today. Next session also I'll continue with the study of the invocatory prayer, and then we will go into the proper Upanishad. We have planned to meet twice a week. Yeah, Monday and Thursday. Mondays and Thursdays we meet twice a week to study this. Hari Om.